you know, there's so many people that are looking for so many different answers, and we're kind of tired of all these different, philosophies out there by these elitists, these professionals, these people that, maybe have looked at things pretty dogmatic. And I'm not saying that there's no need for, doctors or all those things, but, I feel like collectively we can do a good job on our own too. And today, my first YouTube live talk, I'm going to talk about parenting and step parenting. And because, it's interesting, like that's pretty much the biggest chunk of our life. Kayla and I, between the two of us, she has 2 boys and 2 girls. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. I have a 25-year-old son. I have a 20-year-old daughter who has a son on the way this coming month. I have a 17-year-old, 6-foot, 5-foot son. He's giant, graduating high school, 17 this year. 13-year-old daughter. Kayla has a 19-year-old daughter who has a son and a baby on the way. She has another daughter who's 16. We have another son who's 11, another 10. So I have 4 stepkids. I have 4 biological kids. We have some grandkids. We have some that are grown adults. We have them all over. And I've been step parenting for 25 years. Now, there's 2 sides of step parenting. There's the biological parent, and then there's the step parent. And both of them play a big part in how we react to this. Because on one part, I've been the parent, for a long time. And I know what it's like to have a parent and to bring, step parents into that equation. And that can be hard, that can be a really challenging thing because the history, the trauma, the pain behind it. And of course, as parents, we want to protect our kids. We want to protect the ones that we love. And so, but on the other hand, it's not easy for the step parent. And now that I've been a step parent for a few years now, and I know what that's like. I've been in this game for 25 years of my life in the step parent realm. Between Kayla and I, we've had 5 different other parents that we've had to deal with. That's not even including their spouses. We've had to deal with we have some parents that we can go out and have coffee and dinner with, no problem, and we get along. And we have some that, we don't even see. I haven't even seen them in years. We have, one of them, one of the parents, Isaiah's mom, she passed when he was 19. So, if there's anyone that's seen it, we've seen it. I've seen the effects of what bad step parenting can be. I've seen the effects of what great step parenting can be. I've been on both sides, and I want to just take a few minutes and talk, because there's a lot of people out there. We're going into 2026, and there's a lot of people out there that you have either been a step parent, or you were a stepchild, or people that this is our life. This is our life. And that's why I want to talk about this, because there's so many people out there that, they struggle with this blended family, idea, or this step parenting. I call it step because, I grew up, 1979 is when I was born. We called it step parenting. So I still call it old school step parenting. And I absolutely love doing it. But I also would tell you, it's one of the hardest things that you can do, and one of the most self-serving or selfless things you can do in your life too, because you're coming into a home that's already been established, there's structure, and you're coming in with you and your family and your ideas, and you're trying to blend them, and you're trying to make them work together. It can be so hard to do. And thankfully, Kayla and I have a few years under our belt. We've been together for a while now, and right away when we started dating, a handful of years ago, you have to get really serious when you're dating when you have that many children. You can't just mess around, you know what I mean? You have to get pretty committed pretty quick. And basically our entire dating and marriage life has been revolved around our kids. And and how have we done that without losing ourselves? Because Kayla's my absolutely best friend in the world. We have a great relationship. We have, everyone has a couple things that they have to deal with, but most of it, it's just dealing the communication part of what we're talking about right here is step parenting, because we're not perfect at it. We don't really know all there is, but here's some things I will tell you. All our kids, they're best friends. you know. They all get along really well. Doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean they're, they don't have their quirks. No, but they've learned. They've seen how to have grace. Our daughters Annalie and Lana, they share a room together. They're best friends in the world. It doesn't mean they're always together. They live in, they have to go see their different parents, but they get together, man. They're very creative. They help me on my TikTok accounts. They're very different personalities, very loving. My son, the giant, 6'5", he's really close with Austin and Owen, and his gaming little buddy and his workout. They have a gym downstairs, and it's very rare that you'll hear, especially the stepkids, fight. And I know that's not normal. That's not a normal. Now, I also know with raising Isaiah and growing up in a home that I did, Isaiah, he got along with his siblings very well too. And so, there is a way to do this where it can be, you can minimize the cuts and bruises, and I've seen it all, man. I've watched it all. And today I want to talk about the dynamics of when you get together with somebody, and let's just say you're getting ready to marry them, and you're getting into this relationship, and there's two ways that I see this going wrong. With the step parenting, and when I say wrong, there's really no wrong, because we're dealing with mess. The best we can do is just get better and get more capacity to be able to hold, because you're coming into trauma. The very definition of step parenting is you're coming into trauma. These kids have lost their moms, their dads for a given amount of time. They've lost houses. They've lost friends. Some of them have lost schools. Some of them lost, siblings, and some of them. You're coming into traumatized children right off the bat. You are coming into a traumatized home. Buckle up. Buckle up. No joke there, man. If you're just thinking, I'm going to come in, there's two ways I see this happening. Two. One is, there's the parents that want to come in and they want to save the day. They have their philosophy, they have their ideas of, religion and politics and structure and discipline, and they're going to come in, they're going to save the day. I've seen this all the time. I've seen this all the time. And I'm going to tell you, it's a bad strategy. First off, those aren't your kids. I have 4 stepkids. Keyword, step. I told them when we first got together, I'm going to do a teaching on this someday. When we first got married, I came home, Kayla and I got eloped, we came back, told the kids, I said, okay, listen, I don't care what you call me. You can call me Jason or you can call me Dad. I don't care what you call me. But you're not going to tell me what I'm going to call you. In other words, if somebody asks me who you are, I might tell you that you're my kids. The key is, they're not your kids. They're your stepkids. You're their step parent. You have to embrace that part of it. If you go outside that boundary, you're going to swing into, if you start going in, you're going to go in with all your discipline, with all your ideas. And we all swing to this from time to time. But if you're going to go into parenting, I watch this happen, especially with a lot of young parents, is they come into a relationship, they come into the step parent, and they bring all their ideas of how they can save the day. And I'm telling you, that will backfire on you hardcore. Hardcore. First thing is, they better see you love your spouse more than anyone in this whole world. Because if you guys are not united, if you guys aren't loving each other, if they see you fighting, those stepkids are not going to like you very much. Why would they? They've already been through the trauma. They've already been through the hurt. They've already been through the pain. They've already been traumatized. They don't want to go through that again. They don't want to go, especially with you. You're the step parent. So there's one way they come in and they bring in all their philosophies, their ideas, and they're going to save the day. I'm telling you, that's a mistake. But then there's the other way around it. There's the other side where you come in and you're just going to, you want to be the nice guy or girl. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. You don't want to make any mistakes. You want to be loved. You want to be the, and I'm going to tell you, that's almost as bad as a mistake as trying to come in and be the enforcer. And I'll tell you why. First off, you need to build some history with these kids. You need to build some history with these kids. They've been through some stuff, and if you come in there, you're an adult. They need an adult. You're the step parent. And what is a step parent? Be the best you. In other words, you better not be knocking down the other parents. That's a no number one. I don't like most of the other parents. Some of them I dislike a lot, but I like my stepkids. I love my stepkids. I love them enough to know that if I go at their other parent, then I'm hurting their identity themselves. That's the worst thing you can do. I don't necessarily agree with all the other things that other parents do, but but you know what? I hope that inside they really feel a lot of pride about it, because I don't want their identity to be trashed. So you better not be trashing other parents if you're going to have a healthy relationship. It's hard. It's hard. It doesn't mean I like it and I agree with everything, but as far as the other kids can see, you have to allow them to, love them, because that's part of them. But on the other side of this, if you're going to go in there and you're just going to be Mr. Nice Guy and you're not going to have any problems, they'll never respect you. With each one of my stepkids, we've had problems. This is why I'm even going on here, because I've had to learn through a lot of stuff to get to a place where we can have Christmas and we get along. That's a beautiful place where all your kids on Christmas, through all the years, you come together and we love each other, and it's good, and you're sad when everyone has to leave. What more can you want for? Especially with your adult kids that want to come and your grandkids. I know that that's not normal nowadays. There's usually a lot of drama in families, guys, especially blended families, especially step-parents. So if you're going to try to be Mr. Nice Guy or Mrs. Nice Guy, and what you're doing is you're putting too much pressure on that other parent, because now they're having to be the Mr. Discipliner. So what the key word, balance. Balance. Balance is a huge word in step parenting. Balance, guys. So what does that mean? Well, with my stepkids, we have some times where we have some, arguments. We're really real here, and that doesn't mean we go around and we try to point, we're real and we knock each other down, but we know where we stand with each other. And I have, Austin and I, we might go at it sometimes. Owen and I, we might go at it sometimes. Lana and me, there was a time where Lana and I, we had a big, huge argument when we first got married. She didn't like me coming in and marrying her mom the way I did. We eloped, and and there was a lot of things going on, and we went through a big, there was with Lana. If you know Lana, she's the sweetest girl in the world. I'm not even going to talk about my own stepdaughter. But the thing is, that's how you build history. As long as your heart's good. I had to go to Lana and I had to say, hey, listen, I'm just trying to be the best stepdad I can. I don't really know how to do this, but I love you. I'm in your corner. I'm not trying to be your dad. And you have to go through those. You can't just think that you're going to be the nice parent all the time. Now, you see what I'm saying? You can come in and you're going to be the mean guy. You're going to discipline. You're going to take over. You don't know what you're doing. Your kids are traumatized. Let me come over. That's a danger. Don't do that. But then if you come over here and you think, I'm just going to let this other parent do everything and I'm just going to sit back over here and be Mr. Nice Guy, both of them equally, they're both very, very dangerous grounds. You want to find the area in the middle. As hard as it is, how do you stay in that? How do you do that? Get feedback from other parent. What do you need from me? What do you need me to do? What do you need from me? And not be a victim when you do it. Oh, I'm doing all this for your kids and that I'm doing that for your kids. You know what? Then you're putting division between you and your wife, or you and your spouse, or you and your partner, and it's going to get and these kids are going to start to disrespect you. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to be in that middle. You want to be loving, but you want to be you. You want them to be who they are, have discipline, but in your family structure, they live in your family structure, but they should respect where they come from, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with that or not, whether you like their last name or not, whether you're jealous or not. Get over it. You decided to get into a relationship and marry somebody else who have these kids. If you didn't like the fact that there's another spouse involved, you shouldn't have done it. You should have done your homework. Now that you're in that relationship, you better get over that jealousy stuff, because they're going to have to get this, forever deal with that other parent, because just because those kids turn 18, that doesn't mean there's not grandkids, and then there's not other grandkids, and there's not Christmases. Now, you might deal with them less, but for the rest of your life, you're going to be dealing with the other person, the other ex. So if you have a real big jealousy issue, maybe don't marry someone that has kids, because you're only hurting them. You're only hurting them. I know I'm coming at you direct, But man, you know, I see too many. I've witnessed with my own eyes, under my own, not with Kayla. Kayla's awesome. Kayla's awesome stepmom. But I've watched how a lot of step parents, they get into this, man, and this is a real struggle. I've watched how it comes where a parent comes in and they're going to be the disciplinarian, they're going to go over and they're going to hurt people. But I've also watched the good guys. I've tried to be the good guy. You got to find that balance right in between there. You got to get feedback from your spouse. What do you need from me? Where am I lacking? How can I help a little bit more? How can I help you be a better step parent? You know, you ask. You got to ask. Ask, what can I do? Kayla and I do that. You know, you can't hold it over the other parent's head. You chose to be a parent. It's a step parent, but it's a parent. You are a parent. You're a type of parent. You're what I would call a hybrid parent. You're a divergent parent. You are a different type of category of parent. You're not a mom or dad. I wish people could hear this, man. I've been doing this for 25 years. That confuses the crap. Our kids don't call, my stepkids have never called me dad. If they want to, I'm not going to get mad at them. My kids have never called Kayla mom. But we are a parent. You understand? And so I want to help people with this step parent. You know, it's not an easy thing. You know, it's not something that you can... just jump into, and you have to build history. You have to have the arguments. You know, conflict creates clarity. Very important here. This is a very important part of this, and I'm going to finish with this. You know, one of the reasons why, if you're going to be in this, prepare for a little conflict. Now, that means you should be growing in how to deal with this. Maybe read some books. You know, maybe watch some, YouTubes on step parenting. Maybe, get some ideas, because there's going to be times where you should have conflict with these kids. And how do you do that? Because this is how conflict creates clarity. You should make sure you're basing that conflict on a principle, not your mood. In other words, if you're just in a bad mood and you just want to go around and have conflict, you're out. But if there is a violation in your house, like a true violation, and it needs to be addressed, it's really hard for a step parent to be like, oh man, I'm going to go to the other parent and have them do it. That's what I'll do. If they're violating your boundary, that boundary might not even be your spouse's or your partner's. So if you're going to address it, if you have to go and explain it to them. Here, invite a little conflict. Invite them to get a little mad at you. Invite there to be a little pushback. Over time, that's how you build that relationship. You understand? Not going out there and just having your preference and your way, but if you have some principles and you have your new home, because when you get together with this new person, it's your new home, and it's different than their other parents, and that's okay. You are going to have boundaries in that structure. So that is what you need to communicate with these kids. Don't pawn that off on your other spouse if it's your boundary. You should have the courage to go and tell them. Now, I know this is hard. I've pawned this stuff on Kayla. I've violated this, but I'm telling you, for the best results, those kids will respect you as a step parent who is calm, who communicates things, who's not afraid of conflict, but doesn't go out there and try to provoke it. And when the conflict does happen, you try to make it into an area where you grow. This is how you become a family. This is how you become what they call a blended family. This is how you become somebody where you can have Christmas and everyone wants to be together. This is where you can this is where you can have trauma, not healed, but it starts to get actually better, because they start to see a family structure of like, hey man, it's pretty awesome when you have 8 kids and they all get along really good. Man, it's pretty awesome. And the kids can say like, hey, Mom, Dad there was a lot of fighting over here. That's how I thought relationships were, but here's a big family over here and there's a lot of messy, but they get along and they genuinely love each other. That gives them a different paradigm. It gives them a different paradigm. Hey, maybe there is hope in marriage. Hey, maybe the families don't have to get destroyed. Hey, just because something's broken doesn't mean it can't get repaired or fixed or even come back stronger or better. There's so many lessons that you can teach your kids in stepping up and being a good step parent. So I'm going to help people over the next few, forever, I hope, having 8 step kids, 5 different, parents I've had to deal with, it's given me a unique perspective to, I would say 80% of my job is this. 80% of my job is trying to keep the family unit together with all these dynamics. It's the most important thing you can do in your life. It's the most important thing you can do. So I hope this made sense. I hope this, helps you. If you know all the people out there that have step family, I'm going to try to come on here and more often talk about this, give some more tips. I have a lot of things that I think we can help. Not perfect. We're not doing this right all the time, but I will say this about Kayla and I. This is where we put most of our effort in life. We really, 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 really try, because when you get together, she has 4 and I had 4, and she was living as a single mom out in the woods by herself. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, half the time with my kids, and you're really hyper vigilant about making sure that this works right. And I'll tell you, Kayla and I, this is what we work really, really hard to do. Really hard to make sure that our kids blend together and that we blend together. And so, next time I'll probably talk about how Kayla and I operate in a relationship, which helps the kids get along better and gives us moral authority to be able to speak to our kids in a blended situation or a step family. So share this with other people, have a great Saturday, and keep stepping up.